In the Kouri Richins murder trial, she's the Utah woman accused of poisoning her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl, then writing a children's book about grief.
Today, an evidence scene technician took the stand. We do have team coverage for you tonight. Brian Schnee and Liv Kelleher are both live for us in Summit County. So what stood out today?
Well, we only had a small sample size today in court because testimony lasted about an hour, and then due to unforeseen circumstances related to Judge Richard Mrazek, the court was actually adjourned, and nobody stuck around really throughout the day. Everything wrapped up around 10:45 this morning, and they'll get going back again tomorrow morning. You mentioned fentanyl. That wasn't really discussed today. The defense had their opportunity to cross, again, the crime scene tech that was on the stand towards the tail end yesterday and to start the day today, and they asked her, she was the one who was taking photographs, for example, at the crime scene when Eric Richins was found deceased back in March of 2022. They asked her about, did you find this drug? Did you find this medication? And there was a lot of questions pertaining to that today.
In your experience, when you've been to scenes, have you experienced where people put pills in different bottles than what the bottle actually says they are when they're illicit drugs?
Well, they were taking time to pick apart the evidence that was either found or, in some cases, as the defense alluded to, did not look for during part of this investigation. Very interesting over the last few hours of testimony between yesterday and today. Something also we've been following here is Kouri Richins herself. In the court, Liv Kelleher was in the court for about an hour today. It was a very short sample size, but you were talking to a body language expert about Kouri's demeanor over what, the past 2.5 days, I guess technically 3 days of trial?
Yeah, that's right, Brian. When we think about Kouri's physical appearance, that's going to communicate a message to the jury. Over the past 3 days, she's been wearing 3 different outfits. Today, she was in perhaps her softest look, a light blue top, a gray sweater. The first day, she was in a black suit. The second day, she was in a gold blouse. All 3 days, she's had her hair done in a very low, sleek bun, very soft look, and very minimal makeup. She has not spoken. We don't know if she will testify, but these physical choices are communicating a message to the jury. Unintentionally or intentionally, how a defendant appears speaks before they do. Malynda Ruth is a jury consultant and body language expert with Magna Legal Group.
Nonverbals are where we see truth. You can say anything you want, right? But your body will eventually speak the truth.
She says jurors are instructed to only consider facts in the case, but to interpret a defendant's appearance or their reaction is only human.
They're looking at the defendant and trying to judge authenticity. You know, is this a trustworthy person?
Ruth says a few things have stood out to her. Kouri's consistent pulled back hairstyle, her doe-like eyes, and her tendency to rest her hand on her chin.
She has to be careful with this because it can elevate you, making you seem like you're somewhat above because your chin is up.
In opening statements, the prosecution characterized Kouri as an affluent and savvy businesswoman who was motivated by greed.
Characteristics being thrust upon you by the prosecution, how do you fight against those with your appearance?
Right. You need to appear humble. You've got to appear approachable.
She says dress adds to that, like the soft cardigan and light color palette she wore today.
She looks meek. She looked meek to me anyway. Not polished, not somebody that I would assume is like a, cutthroat with business or just, not necessarily a victim, but definitely this is a mom in your community.
While the case will ultimately come down to evidence and testimony, experts say first impressions and lasting ones are being formed every single day inside the courtroom. Ruth also told me that a defendant's control of their appearance is strongest in the first few days of a trial, but as proceedings continue and fatigue sets in, it can be more difficult to maintain control over those non-visual cues. Now, again, the jury has been instructed to only make decisions based on the facts in this case, but as we've seen, that can be difficult to do.
And we have a long ways to go here. I mean, today was cut short. You have to figure maybe that time will be added on somewhere. We do know that the state was still planning to call maybe even close to a dozen witnesses over the final couple days of this week. So we will see how far we make it. But again, things do get going tomorrow morning, bright and early here in Summit County at 8:30. That'll do it for us out here in Park City. Mark and Heidi, back to you.